I think everything is figure outable. My life motto is figure it the fuck out. I am on this bigger mission to make art safe, to help creative people feel safe doing their art in visible ways.
It's time to make some room in your headspace. This is Words Matter with Amy Guth.
I want to talk today about creative self-sabotage because, oh my God, I've seen so many examples of it around me lately. It's really kind of up in my grill. So the thing that I want to say about it is, gosh, there's so many things, and I don't have notes. I turned on the mic and I'm here and I'm talking. That's it. I just want to talk about it, and I felt like I needed to talk about it right now. So one of the things is that, self-sabotage is very rooted in ego, right? Because a lot of times the folks that are the most guilty of self-sabotage are doing one of two things. They're generally either talking a huge game about what a fucking baller they are and name dropping and, doing all this big stuff. I'm not a fan of name dropping. Yuck. On the same token, though, the folks that are abusing modesty in the other direction and that are not telling you anything, you'll say, like, what are you working on right now? What are you doing? You're so talented. And they're like, oh, I'm just, worked on a little thing. And it turns out like they were in a movie with a giant star or something. You know what I mean? And it's fine to be modest. And I know and believe that you should, for the most part, keep your fucking mouth shut until it's done. I think people generally talk about things too early and then they back themselves into a corner and they don't give themselves space for a project to grow. That's less about movies and more about like writing projects and things like that. But it seems like, and I talk about this a lot, I've written about this a lot, but this idea of modesty is a virtue that is abused in both directions in our society, right? We have the braggarts, and none of us want to be that asshole. So we abuse modesty in the other way and kind of self-negate in a way. And that's very prevalent. And in fact, I think the more that you know, the more you realize you don't know. And that kind of leads to like, well, shit, I don't know anything. I'm just a speck of lint in this whole universe. I don't know shit. And that makes some of the most qualified and credentialed people opt out of conversations they should be in. And then the other part of it is this funny thing that I've noticed in the creative world. I think especially now that like there's so much coaching and so many courses and things like that online. And I know sometimes there's eye roll about that kind of thing. And I don't think it's warranted. I don't think it's fair. I think sometimes people are like out over their skis, but also I don't begrudge anybody teaching the skills that they know. I think it's actually quite a lovely thing that's cropped up in the world of here's the thing I know how to do, and I'm going to teach it in a relatively informal way, or like a and I say informal meaning like outside of an academic setting. Like it could be formally your business, but maybe it's not through a university or something. It's more person to person. I think that's really cool. But one thing that sort of cropped up with that is that we have this tendency or this belief that's been shaped that we can learn absolutely anything and that absolutely everything is just checking some boxes. And I think that is, for the most part, true. I think everything is figure outable. My life motto is figure it the fuck out. But there are soft skills that are not checking a box. And there are some things that are like, yes, you could check every box on that thing, but you need more than just checking that box to do it well, to do it strategically. In particular, I'm talking about film producing. A thing that has happened that I have noticed a few times that really is unsettling to me when I see it is when I say I'm a producer. People go, oh, how'd you get into producing? I say, well, I have been in journalism for years, and documentary was a natural extension of that, and commercial work, and that led me to scripted work, and I caught the bug and it took off from there. And I feel so passionate about producing and I love it so much that I often will tell people something like, I love producing because it taps on all of my best skills. I get to use all of my best skills in one place to produce. And it's exciting and it's fun. And a lot of times solving movie problems and helping directors bring their big vision into being is some of the same stuff that I learned in journalism, just like I've talked often about with screenwriting, which is another thing that I do. A lot of the things that I learned in journalism, having to write quickly and well on a deadline, kind of making yourself into a natural structuralist of a story, that all translated really well into screenwriting. And I think dialogue too, because I've often said that as journalists, you talk to someone often on the best or worst day of their life. So you see some very honest human reactions. And I think once you see that, you go into a script and you look at dialogue and all of it feels like bullshit, because you're like, that's actually not what people say when they're under duress or when they're elated. That's not at all what people say. They say some of the strangest shit. And you have to know how people really talk. And sometimes like dialogue can fuck up a script, right? When it doesn't feel authentic. But back to producing, a thing that I have encountered is sometimes when you say you're a producer, they're like, oh, yeah, producing sucks. You got to do it now, right? We've all got it. I'm like, wait, no, I'm not like producing out of necessity. I'm producing because I fucking love it. And I'm very good at it. I will not bat an eye to say I'm very good at it. I know that it requires more than being able to file paperwork. There are business skills that I've sharpened in other settings. You know, if you've ever run a P&L, that's an asset that you bring into producing. There are soft leadership skills you have to bring into the game, because people need to feel very supported in order to do their best work. Because at the end of the day, it is still art that you're doing. It is the intersection of art and commerce, and good producers can both be a creative producer and wear the artist hat, and also learn the business side and be unflinching about it, and not, you know, I don't have a lot of patience for artists that, you know, kind of have this sense like, oh, I can't be bothered with the business side of anything. I don't enjoy that. Yes, your art should be the primary thing, but also you have to learn how to be strategic about it. You know, the days of just like writing a story and typing it up and sending it to an editor, those are gone. You've got to deliver the paper too, to some extent, right? But I've noticed this pity thing with producing, as if it's where you go when you don't have anything else to do. And I think that's bullshit. I willingly and happily chose producing and love it very much and know that I thrive in that setting. And I think a lot of that comes from how much people misunderstand producing. It's not just kind of like, oh, I sort of made sure everything was okay on set. It's much more than that, because there is a strategic component that is so essential. So let's go back to that checkbox idea, right? You can teach someone how to be a producer. You can give them a book, you can give them a checklist and tell them everything that they need to do. But if they have not developed strategic leadership skills, it's going to be a struggle for them. So when it's like, oh, I don't have anybody that's going to produce, I'll just like throw a friend in this role. That's cool. You're missing a huge opportunity, which brings me back to self-sabotage. We all know these folks who talk about like, God, everything's so hard. The industry's so difficult. It's so hard to break through. It's not simple. If it was simple, everyone would do it. And not to discredit the struggle, because the struggle is quite real and it can be very frustrating. There's a lot of ups and downs to navigate and regulate yourself through them. But that mindset is a very big part of it. And if you go at it every day saying, man, this business is fucking hard and it's impossible and I don't get what I want, that's exactly what life's going to hand to you. I hate to tell you, but it's true. That's exactly what life's going to hand to you. And if you go in with a mindset of like, I can figure this out. I'm going to figure this out. I am figuring it out right now. Every day I'm figuring it out. It's going to be a very different experience for you. And so I've noticed a thing. I've had a few conversations with some folks lately about producing, or people that just kind of wanted advice about producing. And it was kind of a, oh, I think I'm just gonna, I don't know, like my sister's pretty responsible. I'm just gonna get her to like produce it, I guess. There was money in the budget for a producer, and I encouraged her to find somebody who has experience. Indeed, you have to do the work to get the experience, and I understand that. There is sort of this catch-22 there. But the value of a good producer who not only checks all the boxes, but is bringing a strategic mind to the project is so essential, because if you've got everything really well organized, and look, I am anal retentive about it. I have templates and spreadsheets and all these things. ready to go so that I can keep productions extremely well organized when I join them, right? Whether it's like industrial or corporate or commercial kind of project, like I've done a ton of both of those, and great. I highly recommend doing a lot of that because you learn a lot very fast and you learn how to play at a high level really fast. But if you've got everything really well organized, you free up the mental space for your creative team to do their best work, to think it through so they're not worried about things, right? The producer is there to remove obstacles and to ensure the fiscal soundness of the production. And I'm not here to blame anybody for this because I think it's just simply not discussed enough. But you can't just make a budget and hope for the best, nor is going to film festivals a distribution strategy, because both of those are very disempowering narratives. There is the narrative in Hollywood that someone's going to, quote unquote, discover you and pluck you out of obscurity. What are you really saying there? You're really saying, I'm going to be in this space and someone's going to find me and love me so much, they're going to pick me and they're going to do the work for me. What a disempowering narrative. Like every time I have heard someone in the industry say, and eventually, it's just going to break open for me. Eventually, I'm going to be discovered. I want to be like, you know what? I'm your life coach now because I'm going to break you of believing that you are here to take scraps. I want you to believe that you have some agency, because until you believe that you have some agency in any business, but especially a creative one, especially the film industry, especially the writing world, it is going to be a very disempowering experience for you. And I believe you might get some wins, but you're not going to get all the wins. You're not going to get all the wins that you could be getting if you've got a mindset like that, right? So similarly, people will just like, well, I made this film for however many millions of dollars and hopefully we can make it back. Okay, well, what steps have you taken to ensure that you are making it back? What steps have you taken to ensure that generally, what the global projection numbers might be for this kind of film? What steps have you taken there? And it's often like, what? I don't know. Well, that's something a great producer will do for you. To think about it strategically, to think about that film project as a small business, and to ensure profitability. That is not something that's unheard of. That's not a pipe dream at all. And then the other thing is distribution, right? People go, well, I'm going to put in some festivals and hope for the best. Yes, absolutely. I hope you get lots of laurels and wins and accolades. And I hope you get to those top tier festivals that bring you a lot of visibility. That's awesome. That's great. But it's also not distribution. Indeed, once in a while, a film premieres at one of those top tier festivals and gets a lot of attention, and that helps facilitate a distribution deal, but you can't bank on that. You cannot bank on that. Distribution is another aspect of a thing that you do, and you start at the very beginning. You start planning for that distribution. But even then, you don't just take whatever people are willing to throw at you. You have to decide, what is the strategy for this film? Who's it for? What's it about? Where does it need to be? And you work backwards from there. And all that is to say, where I find self-sabotage, and again, I'm not blaming anyone for this because I don't think it's discussed widely enough. And I think there are plenty of folks who want to gatekeep information because it is a competitive business. But this other way that I see people self-sabotaging is kind of this like desperate clinging to doing things chaotically, to doing things half-assedly, I think the chaos is a big one, right? Making a film is hard. Writing a book is hard, but it does not have to be chaotic. Words that I always live by is there only needs to be drama in front of the camera. We do not need drama behind the camera. And the way you mitigate that, because look, shit's going to happen, things happen and sometimes you have to act quickly, but that doesn't have to be drama because you plan for unexpected. You have a contingency built into the budget. You think through some strategies of, if A, then B. But also you dot all your I's and cross all your T's from the very beginning. You just take care of it, and you take care of it at a high level. And that's a thing that keeps me awake at night, frankly. It is part of my mission to make people understand the value of a good producer, that it's not just like, put a body in there who, she's got a car and he's pretty responsible. Let's use one of the. No. Until there's more widespread understanding of what a producer does, it's going to be harder and harder for producers who can be so helpful to get through to filmmakers who are gatekeeping out of fear, who are playing small because they're terrified. Like, I'm not blaming anybody for playing small. It's not your fault. It doesn't make you bad. It doesn't make you wrong. It doesn't make you untalented. It doesn't mean you're not going to figure it out. But it does mean you got to name it. You got to say, man, all my projects are just shit shows. What's going on with me? Being committed to blaming others and being committed to chaos is not going to get you there. So a lot of the things that I do in a consulting capacity is explaining to people that it's not just checking boxes, right? Like, for example, there's a lot of offers that I have, and one of them is about book proposals. And some people just buy that and they check the boxes and get their book proposal out in the world. And I made that for them. I made that for people that are like, I got it. I understand. I just need like a little bit of a map and I got it. I'm out the door. And it works for them and I get good feedback on it. But then there's folks who are like, I need some guidance. Because to them, they know, hey, I don't know the things beyond the boxes to check. I don't know the soft skills of editing, and I need an editor, right? They want to bolt on that part. They want to bolt on, hey, I do need to get my book proposal done. I need some guidance, but I want more than just checking boxes. I want someone who's thinking about this at a high level strategically to help me get this book proposal out. And it's absolutely the same with this. That I could write a book about here is how to produce in the film world and how to be good at it and how to be successful at it. Here is how to make a film profitable. Here's all those things you need to know. But with that, you need a leadership course. With that, you need to shadow people. With that, you need to develop as a leader. With that, you need to develop as a business person in order to do all those things well beyond just checking the boxes. I'm talking about the things that are not boxes to check. Like, make people feel supported on set can mean a lot of things. That's your communication style. That's what you do during the day. That's what you're doing on set. That's making people feel prepared and respected in pre-production leading up to production. That's being an effective communicator in post-production. It's making sure that everybody's food allergies and dietary needs are honored on set, right? There's a lot that goes into just making people feel comfortable and safe on set, right? There's a lot to that. And those are the kind of things that are so important. And, I very well might soon make some kind of offer that is sort of a downloadable producer guide because like I said, I'm on this mission. I want people to understand what producers do a lot more clearly. So I might make some kind of offer like that, but with it, same as book proposals, there will be things for them to understand. Make people feel supported on set is not just a box, it is a practice. It is a strategy, that there's a lot that goes into it. But again, folks that are committed to chaos and to blame because they're fearful of their own power, they're fearful of their own art, they're terrified of success, they're terrified that, hey, if I become visible, it may not be safe for me, so I'm going to make sure that I wreck this at every turn. And there's a lot of it, so it feels normal. That's the thing. There's so much of that it does feel kind of normal sometimes. You're like, wow, there's a lot of people that, this must just be the way that it is. And it isn't. It's not. It's not normal. And just because there's a good amount of something doesn't mean that that's all there is. Doesn't mean that it's always like that. Nor does it mean that's the way it should be. I am on this bigger mission to make art safe, to help creative people feel safe doing their art in visible ways. So if you're finding yourself self-sabotaging, it's not your fault. If you're playing small, it's not your fault. Because it's fucking terrifying. I understand that. I have been there. But to be committed to it, to be committed to staying there and not progressing, that's the issue. And look, I get it. Under this stage of capitalism that we are under, it feels like you have to scale it, right? So if you're an artist, it's like, if your goal is, I just want to make my art and earn a living, there's pressure to be like, no, don't you want to win an Oscar? Don't you want to be a huge star? Some people don't want that. Plenty of people don't want that. Plenty of people are like, I want to make a living as a working actor in my hometown. I want to make a living as a director. I want to make a living as a gaffer. That is totally cool and beautiful that you have that clarity. But the push-pull, the difficulty that ripples out to all the people around you is if you are stuck in a self-sabotage cycle and you're talking a big game with a lot of exaggeration, or you're negating yourself and hiding your wins and not telling the truth about it either direction, either too big or too small, because there's a place in the middle. The middle is the place. The middle is just straightforwardly, I was in this production. I produced this film. That's not bragging and that's not undercutting yourself. That is just the middle place of truth. We live in a society that loves spectacle and extreme, so of course we're not looking at the middle part. But there is straightforwardness in the middle part, and it's very important to be in the middle part, where you're just saying the truth of what you're doing. And if what you really want is to do this work, and perhaps the visibility is a little frightening or overwhelming to you, you have to be able to name that. You have to be able to say, I can take this one day at a time. I can take this one thing at a time, because until you learn how to regulate yourself and feel safe in public and feel safe being visible, it is going to be so very uphill. And you will do things like be drawn into chaotic projects over and over and over, where maybe you're getting paid for it. I hope you are, but it's hard-won, low-quality money, where deadlines aren't getting made, where you're not making the day, where things go way over budget, where there's drama, where people aren't doing their best work because they don't feel safe. There's maybe short-temperedness. There's all that kind of shit going on. That is totally unnecessary. And everybody, all of us doing creative work, we deserve space to do our best work. We deserve to feel okay about it. We deserve to be honest and say, I feel this. We deserve to be able to pursue our thing. And when you're around people that are stuck in that like self-sabotage loop where they're making a lot of chaos, you want to be compassionate. You want to help them. You want to love them through that. You want to go, hey man, I can fix this for you. I know how to do this. I'll do your project because I want to help you. I want to help you win. You're nice. You're cool. You're a nice person. I like you and I want you to win. It's so easy to do that. It's human to do that. But consider making a very hard boundary against the chaos.
Words Matter is fabricated and nurtured inside the mind of Amy Guth with marginally consequential assistance from the Sonic Mice at EarSight Studios. Remember, when you can't talk it out, write it out. Subscribe to Amy's Writing Prompts for Weird Times at amyguth.com. This episode was sponsored by the word chaos. It's that crazy-ass thing you can see from a mile away but seem to miss when it's getting in your face.
Because so often the chaos is coming from a person who is so committed to their own self-sabotage that they will make everything more difficult. They will throw everything in their power at their own effort to try to stop themselves because it doesn't feel safe, because they don't feel good about getting what they want. And it's really not much more complicated than that.